Cool. So guys, we're gonna be starting a little late night coding session, uh, where we're actually gonna be learning, like, sort of learning ourselves as we go along. We're testing out. We're trying to look at inverse kinematics, IK, and we're trying to set it up using a plugin with Unreal called Power IK um, that's used to provide full body inverse kinematics. And yeah, so I'm going to be watching a tutorial whilst I'm doing this. um, so yeah, and that's basically what we're going to be doing tonight. Basically, give a rundown. IK is inverse kinematics, and that's just like basically you with normal when you have forward kinematics, which is how animation is done normally. Um, you basically calculate what you need to do to the joints and the bones in order to reach a certain location. So say you want to grab something off a table, you would need to move your hand. You would need to move your elbow forward, like turn your hand, say 90 degrees down, and elongate your thing 90 degrees this way, and rotate it so that you could grab, and your hand would be in this position here, and with the correct rotation. Um, that's forward kinematics. The way inverse kinematics works is that it says, well, we want to our hand to be in this location, so let's calculate what we need to do back from the final location. So instead of going, what do I need to do? Instead of applying rules to the joints and bones, and then getting a final location based on those rules, instead we get a final location that we want the hand to be in, and then we move the joints accordingly so that they can be in that location. And it's useful in the game context because, say, when we move our body, when we jump, our foot is going to be placed and our hands are going to be placed in certain positions, and it'd be unnatural and it's difficult to calculate how you'd want exactly to move your body in order to place your hand, say, on a wall to be able to vault over it, because there's so many factors that go into it, your movement, your body, and that's just not feasible to program. So whereas with IK, we can say, well, we want our hand to be colliding with the wall, so let's put our hand on the wall and say this is the end position, the effector location, and we want to calculate what we then need to do in order to have our hand in this location, and that's when IK comes into play. So yeah, we're gonna have a look at full body IK using the Power IK plugin, and I've never used this before, so we're both, me especially, we're learning as we go along. So you guys can see all the failures we have. So, but that should be good fun regardless. So yeah, cool. Let's build this and get into the project. We played around with IK earlier. To no real success. Like it sort of worked. We got all the tracing and the tracing of the bone positions down, and I'll explain why we do the tracing when we get to it. But yeah, I'm gonna be going through a tutorial here that kind of breaks down the plugin that we're gonna use for it. So that's a webcam, but we're trying to set up some streaming stuff, where we could do some live streams for you guys. So, so what's going on here? But yeah, so I think that'll send me the link.
All the things that you need just for ground alignment. Okay, so by default it comes in with a character root set to pelvis,
Hello.
which in the case of the Unreal Mannequin is the bone we want. So you want to select that control, that.
Pause that. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we're gonna definitely have some. Okay, so there's no problems with that. Just make sure this all compiles right. Sorry, Dada. Was that? Did you say you're back? Yeah, I did. Did know if I heard you. Okay, maybe not. Let's play and make sure when I was playing around I didn't break the game. Okay, that's all fine. That's working. I'm gonna move the camera because we moved the camera down um, for debugging purposes. But yeah, so we'll run it and yeah, everything works as usual. This is why we need to set the IK. Obviously, this is just some very vanilla, very basic ragdoll collisions where we're just looking at bales, but a lot is going to change in regards to collisions and ragdolls, and IK is pretty much the first step in that. So yeah, so let's go through the video. We go through it together. I'll come back to that. Cool.
Hello, my name is Kieran Ritchie and welcome to the Power IK ground alignment tutorial. So in this video we're going to take a look at how to make the Unreal mannequin conform to uneven terrain. So you can see here no matter what slope he's on, his feet are always going to remain completely flat. So there's no ground alignment in Unreal by default. Same with stairs, he's going to be kind of floating off the stairs. Doesn't look too hot on slopes with those floating feet. So we're going to use Power IK to quickly and easily get rid of that issue. Okay, so I'm going to hit stop. We're going to jump into his animation blueprint, and it's really important to think about where you're putting the ground alignment node. So we could stick it right here, right before the final poses output, but you don't want ground alignment taking place while the character is in the air. So in the case of the third-person mannequin here, he's been set up with a state called idle run, which pretty much encapsulates all of his behavior while he's on the ground. And then he has these jump states where he's in the air. So we don't want Power IK pulling the character back onto the ground while he's supposed to be in the air. So we're actually just going to put the ground node in his grounded state here where he's in idling and running. So this state's very simple. He has a little blend.
For reference, that's actually quite important, that step. And Dada mentioned it to me as well. That part was really important because for here in our locomotion, in our state machine, there is a lot of stages here, and in the different states in which, like I said, you wouldn't want IK to be taking place. One of them, like we said, is the jump, because the way IK works, it basically says, oh well, if we want your foot to be, like he said, to be pulled to a certain position, but in our jump we're playing an animation that's one that's in air, especially. So this is the case for a lot of animations that are in air. Yeah, we wouldn't want to pull our feet to the ground because that would disrupt the entire flow of the animation. However, the IK we need to set up would be different because we may want our hands to be pulled to an object, and that's where we set up hand IK for our jumps. So, and this could be the same with foot IK, but for particular jumps. So I think it's important here to make sure that we, just as we go through, we've got to make sure we are understanding where we're placing our IK nodes and how, in regards to accessibility, when are we going to call it and when do we want to have IK. That's just something, that's a mental note. I'm just going to, we're going to make, just keep an eye out for ourselves whilst we go through the rest of the tutorial. Just, I think for me, I just got to keep a note on of where exactly we would want IK to take place, and this is where we'd call it. But yeah, I'll go back to the video.
Space. This could of course include any arbitrarily complicated system that you want, but really what you want is while the character's on the ground, after the final grounded pose has been generated and before its output, this is where you want to stick a Power IK ground node. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little bit of space here, right click and type Power IK, and we're not going to select the solver, we're going to select the ground node. So the ground node kind of encapsulates the solver and takes care of all the ray casting for you.
So for us, we would want the Power IK ground node. Since we're going to do our foot IK to begin with, we wouldn't want it while we're jumping, because we don't want our foot to be put to the ground. So for us, we're going to want it in the idle state and also in the run, and sprint and run locomotion state. So we'd want our Power IK in here and in here. So those are the two locations, I believe, that we're going to want. We use motion matching for our locomotion, which will be a very separate topic that's we're gonna go quite into depth about that topic, but that'll be totally separate, a separate video in itself. And pose matching, which will be something separate as well for our idol. But yeah, so if I hear, so we have a ground node in here, and this, the way this works, this is going to transform a local pose because this is a local space. However, the way IK works, it works in component space, so you'll need a local to component, which will transform to that. But before I add that, I'm going to leave this connected and see exactly what he does with this node. But I'll add the other node to the other point as well. So we now have the two IK nodes in the states in which we want our foot IK to take place. So let's see what he does next.
All the things that you need just for ground alignment. Okay, so by default it comes in with a...
So let's connect that to the, and like I said before, this is basically saying when we look at poses, this is a pose in local space, whereas when we look at IK, it's a pose in component space, and so that's why we need the little change here, which converts the two. Nothing complicated there, it's just literally just a conversion there. But yeah, okay. So we have that for our run locomotion, and then we also want it for our idle locomotion here. So we connect the two there. Connect that to that. One thing I do just want to check is that, okay, we have no IK going on. Okay, cool. Okay, so we can go back to the locomotion. We'll start in the idle state here. And one thing I've learned from using blueprints is try to keep it as neat as possible, because the more blueprints you get, this could become extremely messy. So I always try and just organize it really well as I go along and keep space in between nodes. But okay, we'll crack on. So we'll see.
The character root set to pelvis, which in the case of the Unreal Mannequin is the bone we want. So you want to select that that bone that controls the top level of the character. Okay, so this is usually named like pelvis or hips or something like that.
We'll just check. I do believe that would be yes, and that is the name for our skeleton as well. Different skeletons can be different. So as you see here is named pelvis, but if your skeleton is different and your bones are different, you would need to, if you're trying to do this, you need to go into your skeletal, your character skeleton, and make sure that your bone is named the same, because but the naming is important when you're passing it into functions where that's just not in here, but in everywhere. Say in the character blueprint, if you wanted to get a socket location, so you wanted to get the location of a bone, and we as a function from the mesh, they get socket location. Oh, wrong one. It's important that here you then pass it, but this is important that you spell it right. So that pelvis is incorrect because that's not how my character pelvis is referenced. So this wouldn't return a proper value. So it's important to make sure that the bones you reference are that for your specific skeleton, and relevant to the exact part you want. That was a bit of a tangent, but yeah, this is just some stuff I've learned from from failing with Unreal.
And if we select the PowerIK ground node, you'll see this foot array or feet array, okay? So we need to add 2 to that. So I'm going to click twice on there. I'm going to uncheck expose because we don't really need to use pins for this, and then we can see these 2 feet array members right here. So I'm going to pop those open. You don't usually have to mess with these values too much. They kind of come in with good default values. All you really do need to specify is the bone name. So we're going to pop back to the skeleton to find those bone names, and I'm going to run the PowerIK on the feet. So foot underscore R and foot underscore L. Okay. You can right click also and copy those names, and you can paste that right in there. So foot L and foot R. We're going to hit compile, and now after compiling you should see these yellow diamonds on top of the...
Okay, cool. So we'll do that now. So, like I said, like he mentioned the same thing as well. It's important the naming convention which you choose. So if we select the IK node here, and here these are the feet we want for the rig. We had two nodes. I think the video is probably old, so he had to uncheck a button, uncheck the expose as a node or pin or something like that. Whereas that option's not available because I think this is a more updated one for 4.26 Unreal. So here we'll set foot underscore R because for our skeleton that's the same here. Obviously, if we're doing hand IK or something like that, it would be the different bone. But, so yeah, so we have the first one and bone here will be foot underscore L. I should have flipped that around. I don't know. We've got used to using left foot first. So now we've. What? Hold on. I think we're going crazy. Foot underscore L. Foot underscore R. Okay. There we go. So now we have 2 feet bones set up. Foot underscore L and foot underscore R. Okay, cool. These are probably values we could probably play around with once you have a better idea of exactly how this node works and how all the IK is done. But for now, we'll keep it as he's doing. This again sees is here that you don't actually need to expose that as a pin, and you can set this here. Which, in regards to decluttering this, I think we'll leave it as a pin for now, just for ease of debugging and when we look at the nodes. But it does actually seem that this wouldn't be necessary. Like you could remove that from expose as pin, but you could also do this if you want to say, instead of writing in a name here, link a variable. So we could always get a variable root name and assign that to pelvis, and then we just drag that in, get the root name, and attach that to the character root here. So this could be bound to a variable, but I guess for time being we'll just leave it as he does it. And we need to do the same for this for the idle state as well. Yeah, so idle 2 feet node, we want foot underscore L. Foot underscore R. Okay, so I think we're up to speed. We'll continue.
The foot locations. If you don't see the yellow diamonds, do check the output log.
Let's check here. Okay, so yeah, so we've got our yellow diamonds here. Perfect. And that's in the idle state, and we also have this set up for the run locomotion state. The reasons why we don't see the yellow diamonds is because we're not currently in this state. I believe if we were to check, oh yeah, sorry, because of the way the motion matching is set up, we can't just debug an editor because there's no input trajectory, because our motion match uses trajectories and we had no trajectory there as it was just standing still, so it caused a bit of a problem. I'm very much hoping we kept all the progress. We did, lovely. Oh no, we've got to add it again. Fantastic. Great. I've learnt my lesson. Anyway, we'll add it back. So we said before, foot underscore L. Just quickly rush through and do this now. Let's go. Okay, so we're back to where we are in our locomotion. There we are. We see the very true. That is so right. Save all. Remember to save things. 101 in everything, I guess. Just save your work. We don't want to have to lose it again. But yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, we've got that's all saved. I'm never gonna forget to save again. Okay, cool. So we can now crack on with the next part.
Log, make sure there's no errors here related to a misspelling of the bones. The yellow diamond indicates that the solver has found the bone and it's set up correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit play and see how we're looking now. Okay, so the first thing you're noticing is, of course, that our character has floated up into outer space. So by default, the raycasts that are going to be finding the ground location will collide with anything, including the character capsule. So in this case, he's kind of just walking on top of his capsule. You can see his shadow there. So we're going to stop here, go back into that PowerIK ground node. I'm going to close the feet section, and we're going to look for ground settings. Under here, we're looking for ground collision, and I'm going to set this to a custom collision channel which I've created called IK Trace. And I'm just going to take one moment here to talk about this collision channel and what I've set up on it. So if you go under your project settings, under edit, project settings, go to collision, you'll see trace channels. So you need to click new trace channel. I've already done that. I've called it IK Trace. And then you need to make sure that that trace channel is set to ignore two things by default. So you need it to ignore pawns and character meshes. Okay, so if you pop that open, you'll see that it's set to ignore IK Trace channels on both character meshes and pawns. Okay.
Okay, cool. So here in our we close these. In our ground collision, we need to create a custom collision channel that ignores the pawn, and the other one was
that it's set to ignore
character
IK
mesh.
Trace channels on both character meshes.
Got you. So here, okay. So settings, project settings, collision, new trace channel. Call it IK Trace in general. IK Trace, default response is block. Then here, pawn, ignore, character mesh, ignore. Okay, so that should be our IK Trace channel set up. We can now apply that to this. Aha. There you go. Awesome. Keep going.
And pawns. Okay. Now that we've set that as our collision channel on the PowerIK ground node, hit save, go back here, hit play, and our character is no longer trying to walk on top of its capsule. And it's already starting to conform to the ground.
Oh, awesome. Let's have a little look here in our system now. So we'll save this. Once again, save all. And yeah, I'm going to just quickly play. That was a bit weird to start with. So that doesn't seem to.
David, do we still have our own IK in there?
I I was wondering. It looks so, doesn't it? Um, but I don't think so. I don't think it's connected. Let me see. Uh, there shouldn't be anything. No, there's no. I'll make sure that we go into the anagraph. No, we don't. These are just cache posed.
Is that IK catch post?
Yeah, but it just goes straight in for the motion match
Ah,
calls.
right,
So
we removed that.
yeah, so it shouldn't have
Hmm.
any IK. It's moving a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Let me see if the character blueprint is. Make sure nothing funky. So we've got a
Oh,
foot.
this guy here. What's this guy?
Yeah, but this is a foot trace we set up earlier. Just a trace, but this isn't called anywhere.
Ah, okay.
So it shouldn't. Well, we can get rid of all these variables. You don't need them at the moment. He is moving a bit weird. Alright, if I'm being totally honest. Which is just weird. So it rises up. That's interesting.
It looks like it doesn't work when it's in idle, right? When it's running, it's okay, huh?
Oh, I know why. I know why. It's because we've set it up for the run locomotion. We've done that, but we haven't done it for idle.
Oh, can we make a function in here? All this piece,
This here
can it
is
be a function? Yeah, I mean, it's only one node, but because otherwise we have to change it both
both times.
places and we forget.
Yeah. Okay, and then what? An input would be. No, because I'm thinking it would take in a component space, like a component pose.
Yeah, it should. I saw that there are some function that takes like they are pure function that they have a component port as input. Uh,
Oh, hmm. So if we made it as a pure function, and had our input would be. This is. Because I was thinking if we want to, we'd have to take in a component pose. Pose in component space.
I think it's called it's an animation layer. It's not a function because a function will never give you the pose.
Okay.
If you have an animation layer and we call it IK ground, whatever.
Oh, I see. So that'll be IK ground, yeah.
Yeah. And
This has an input. Ah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and we say component. And we taking a component pose. Oh no,
I don't know. I think that's already the input
the
right
input.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh yes, that is the input. Yeah, so we take the input and then we do it on this. Ah, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay, so what I'll do is, yeah, that's perfect because then it stops this being redundant and used multiple times. Yeah, awesome. So I'll copy that. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, this is it. Okay, cool. Oh, it already has all this. Oh, this already has everything on the trace on it as well.
Yeah, yeah, you
So
copied
now
that.
we
Yeah,
just
yeah.
need to save for this. Okay, and this is what IK ground.
Yeah,
And we
exactly.
didn't delete
Instead of
any
those
layers.
three. Yeah, yeah.
We now just need. Oh no, we could just even.
We actually, can we do this?
It's not marked as blueprint callable.
What?
Hmm.
Blueprint callable? Don't really. Um, I'm trying to check. Is that so? No, that should be. Oh, that um, um, I think it's I think it's a linked anim layer. Um, can you like? Does it have a node that says linked anim layer
In
uh
this.
in this? Yeah, yeah, that one. Yeah, linked anim layer. Yeah, and that is IK ground, right? Can you specify? Yeah, layer. Try to see if there is IK. Yeah, okay, that's it.
Ah, there we go.
I really don't know why they do
Do
things
that.
separately for.
Oh, but
I mean,
that's so much better.
I've never used it in my life, so
Yeah,
it would be a miracle if it works, but maybe will.
that is so much better. And then we don't even need to. Then we just literally do the same thing. We can get rid of all this.
Yeah. I mean, we should really try. It's probably gonna
Should.
save all and it's gonna crash. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I would hate that. But I've got it saved in the anime anyway, all that code. So
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the sensible thing to do.
ah
I see. Looks good to see. Can you own?
ah
Oh, can only be used once.
in an animation
Ha,
view.
interesting.
Really?
Well, yeah, I think like we should keep it as a layer, but yeah, I think it doesn't make sense, right? You just say, well, no, it doesn't make sense.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Because if you have the same um, IK in this two different states, you should just be able to repeat that note and have it as a like an IK foot function or something, or foot IK, which is what we should call the layer. To be fair, um, then you just put it in the places in which you want it. Like you're 100% right. Yours makes more sense to do it that way, but I don't know why you can only have
Yeah,
one of this.
I think like the yeah the what's LinkedIn? Um, I think like we like if we have like idle and run in the same node, like they have, that will work, right?
Yeah,
But we don't have
we
idle and
don't.
run
Yeah.
in this. Can we have idle and run in the same node? It's probably we could, right? Um, but we don't want to change this structure just to
Yeah,
accommodate
we'd have
the.
to. I mean, we could, and we could then switch on a has move input, but
Or yeah, exactly. Yeah, the switch. But can we just check the the foot IK
is
in
working.
the locomotion run?
Yeah,
Uh, And then when all works,
we
we
look at
just see
optimizing. Yeah,
how to do it in the idle
I'll
as
leave
well.
this here for now. Um, but I'll yeah, okay. Let me make sure the layer works for that. I'll set up for this anyway, but I'll just copy this, which is the in the idle state, which is actually what we need.
Is the parameters are exactly the same?
I'm slightly confused as to why it wouldn't work. Why that's the case.
I think it is because being a layer, there is only one entity, right? In which that pose is because that catches the pose, right? So there is only like one pose, which is the output of that layer, right?
Yeah.
If we use the like, it's impossible that the idle pose that is uh, cached from the idle layer would be the same as the snapshot pose as the locomotion layer. I think that is what it's complaining about.
See, this is interesting because those aren't in the code. Oh, it's because that's not on a particular. Yeah, that uses that layer on that. Okay. Okay. I will also know in the idle state. Whereas in the idle state here, okay, it's on the correct. Okay, foot right. So okay, so that's correct anyway, and we use the IK trace. Okay, so let's save all this anyway. Pause again, and let's see. Let's run this to see how we.
Oh my god! What did we change that then? Right, I think our idea of the layer is pretty bad.
Yeah, we'll get rid of it for now.
Yeah, let's put out that layer. It sounds awful.
Um,
Probably somebody watching now, they say,
just
yeah,
thinking, yeah, these
what this
guys,
guy's doing. They didn't know that.
they don't know.
Nothing. Yeah, like as a normal programmer, this really gives me the goosebumps to have like yeah, same
Okay.
code repeated.
So we have our IK trace here. So so it still teleports up above the capsule,
Yeah.
and now it does it, but it's doing it to the capsule still.
Yeah, now it's
Like
even
it's
I
doing
mean
IK, but it's doing it to the capsule.
but isn't that the same of the animation layer? Maybe that wasn't such a
Yeah,
bad
it's the
idea
same.
after
Yeah,
all.
it would. Yeah, the animation layer seems to work.
But like try to remove the IK from the idle and just try to see when it runs to see
Oh, okay, got you.
if we have sanity for the idle. Well,
Okay,
okay. The idle is back to normal. Yeah, okay. What is it?
it's doing the IK. But it's. Let me make
What
sure I've got the collision set right. So project settings, collision. Now the IK trace. Was it block or ignore? Oh, it was ignore.
he was on ignore?
Yeah, because I think block means the collision doesn't happen. Yeah, that's why. So this was on. So I had this on block, whereas and then here, so the default response to all these other things here was block, whereas what we wanted and we set it to ignore for the pawn and the character mesh. However, everything else it was on. So like the physics actor and everything, it would still block, which means it would collide with and not allow us to pass through. So, but you want the default response, but that doesn't make any sense. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. That was what it
But
was.
now it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, no,
Does
it does. Because here, well,
it do
let's
it?
see. They'll set up. It's not doing the weird crazy
Yeah,
magic.
yeah, yeah. The crazy thing
I'll plug this back in here. Let's see what happens
in the idol.
for the idol.
Mm.
Okay, so the idol's not doing any crazy madness. No. No, it should be block. Ignore this. Let me see what he. Let me make sure I've got the right settings on the.
So you need to click
Yeah, it's
new
block.
trace channel. I've already done that.
Okay.
I've called it IK trace. And then you need to make sure that that trace channel is set to ignore two things by default. So you need it to ignore pawns and character meshes. Okay, so if you pop that open, you'll see that it's set to ignore IK trace channels on both character meshes and pawns. Okay.
So that should block. Because when it was block, it actually looked like it did something.
Yeah, yeah. Too much.
Yeah.
Can we have some screenshot of this screen and like why is it query only not physical?
Hmm.
Isn't that the same of this?
So ignore. Hmm. Spectator. Pawn and character mesh. Left foot, right foot. So we do 200 rate cost out. Make sure it's got this.
Trying to open, you'll see that we're looking for ground collision, and I'm going to set this to a custom collision channel which I've created called IK Trace. And I'm just going to take one moment here to talk about this collision channel and what I've set up on it.
Yeah, it does a trace complex. Yeah. You do
Yeah,
trace complex? Okay.
yeah. His trace is slightly longer. So let's see, 400.
Gonna be even worse.
Yeah.
It looks good from here. It's just like 4 meters up and down. It's a
Yeah.
bit
It's
excessive.
massive. Seems a bit excessive. Okay. So it's doing exactly what his did
Yeah.
before he set up the collision. So clearly there's something in which we're colliding with, that's causing us to, yeah. So that's what, yeah, we're colliding with the thing as we're going through. So it's. I don't think this here is the problem.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like, if you put that to 0, it will stay on the ground, right?
Oh, you can't set 0.
Okay, yeah, it's 0.1. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the thing that we need to do, but I think that 400 it
Yeah.
was the offset where
Yeah.
it went up. Yeah.
They go ahead out. So
Yeah, but
this
still, like, it shouldn't matter,
it
right?
shouldn't
Because
matter. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's definitely to do with this collision channel. Now I think we need to like debug what it's colliding with, because I think it's colliding with something here that it's set to block and not ignore, and
yeah.
because of that, I don't. Set them to ignore them too. This could 100% just not be right. But
Yeah.
it's not right.
Yeah, so that is exactly 2 meters. So it says, okay, there is something at 2 meters.
It was a block, wasn't it?
Have we got any trigger or something? Like, you know, that we start having trigger. We say that we can have triggers for gameplay and stuff like that.
So again?
Like in our scene, have we got anything in there? Like volumes, triggers, in our word outline? Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't got anything suspicious in
No, I don't think so. No, nothing that I think would make it do that.
there. Yeah.
I'm so, oh, I'm slightly curious. So am I for my own curiosity? No, what? Where is he off to? What is he colliding with? This is what I'm confused about. I'm very confused as to.
The strange thing is that I don't think he's colliding there. I think he's like whatever you put as an up and down limit, that is exactly where it goes. So
So if we set this to 2, say 2.
yeah, we stay 2 centimeters off the ground, right?
Yeah, it will go that high. But see, now it's increasing.
No, because that is when you're running, right?
Oh yeah.
Like if you go back to idle, it would
Yeah.
be 2
Let me
centimeters
do
on the
it to.
ground.
Yeah, it's not very far, so it's not doing that.
It's not
And
even
it's still
working,
doing
yeah.
the weird collision thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. No.
I never remember is that case sensitive the name of the string in
This.
yeah, and especially the pelvis,
I
right?
think it might be, but I checked before, and that's it's
Okay, it's
very okay,
correct.
so. Hmm. We've got the bone foot right, foot left. We've set up the trace channel. That's interesting because what is this ground collision here that he set up that seemed to literally combat the problem that we're talking about, but it seems.
So if you go under, you'll see trace channel. So you need to click new trace channel. I've already done that. I've called it IK trace. And then you need to
But when he flies away, he says, "Oh, he flies away because."
Because of this, it doesn't have a collision trace, so.
But it doesn't say the reason.
And put R. We're gonna hit foot locations. If you don't see the yellow misspelling of the bones, the yellow diamond indicates that the solver has found the bone and it's set up correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit play and see how we're looking now. Okay, so the first thing you're noticing is, of course, that our character has floated up into outer space. So by default, the raycasts that are going to be finding the ground location will collide with anything, including the character capsule. So in this case, he's kind of just walking on top of his capsule. You can see the shadow there. So we're going to stop here, go back into that Power IK ground mode.
Oh,
going to
I think
close
he
the feet
collides with
section,
his own
and
capsule.
we're going to look
say.
for ground settings. Under here, we're looking for ground collision.
Oh,
and I'm going to
like,
set this to a custom
and then
collision
it
channel, which
stops
I've
at 4
created called
meters.
IK Trace. And I'm just going to take one moment here to talk about this collision channel and what I've set up on it. So if you go under
Yeah, because it
your
doesn't go
project
straight
settings,
up to 4 meters
under edit,
in
project
one
settings,
frame. It goes slowly up to
go
4
to
meters.
collision. You'll
And
see
I think
trace
it
channel.
keeps
So you need to click
colliding
new
with
trace
his own
channel. I've
capsule
already done
until
that.
it
I've called
gets
it
to
IK Trace.
the
And then you need to
to
make
the
sure that
limit,
that trace
right?
channel is set to ignore two
In
things
fact,
by
if we
default.
draw
So
the
you
back the
need it to ignore
capsule stay on the ground, right?
The capsule stays on the ground, yeah. So that's what it's colliding with. Like it's colliding. That's
With
why
itself.
with itself, yeah. So that's why we set up that collision capsule to
I
ignore.
mean, it doesn't know that it's itself.
Yeah. So we set up that trace to ignore.
He knows that there is a
pawns
capsule there
and character
of
meshes.
somebody, but
Okay,
it
so if you
doesn't know
pop that
it's
open, you'll
itself,
see that
right?
Yeah. So
Like, collision enable like query only, no physical collision. And then the pawn, I feel like with the
it's set to
pawn, it has
ignore
collision enable, right?
yeah.
IK
So
trace channels on both character meshes
But
and pawns.
do we have exactly the same settings?
Ignore IK trace channels on both character meshes.
So, right.
Query physics, no physics collision pool. Yeah.
Like the pawn, ignore all.
So here it says the blocks or objects. That's fine. Can be used for capsule of any playable. So this is the capsule. Yeah. So this is to ignore the capsule. That trace to ignore the capsule. This is to ignore the mesh itself. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So if we were to take that out, to block, it would just do the same thing, to be honest. So that should be ignore the mesh as well. World static object that overlaps all actors by default. A what does that say? How am I? How am I meant to read the rest of this?
Yeah, but I think like, I think the problem is the pawn because we don't have any UI or
Nothing.
actually, what is the other like?
Okay, so if you pop that open,
So
you'll
there are
see
two
that
pawns
it's set to
there, right?
ignore IK trace channels on both character meshes and pawns. Okay.
What is the second part of that screen?
Where?
Like it's got. I can't read from the stream now, but like it's got. It's split into a group of three, and then a group of six. What is the difference between those
So
two groups?
I think this here is the trace type, and then so one is the collision response, one is the trace type, and the other one is the object type.
So object type shouldn't be ignored of the pawn.
For the character mesh, but I think it already is. I think that's by default, yeah. So the pawn is ignore. here.
Oh, okay. And for the pawn size?
And the pawn that obviously
To
should
ignore IK trace channels
so
on
here.
both. Now we fishes
Yeah, it has the same
and
settings.
pawns.
Yeah, it's the same setting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like if you look at the comments on those video, I think somebody says, "Oh, it still floats." Yeah, still flying when I create a new trace, set to no pawn. That is exactly how I work from. Can you even show the bug animation to see? Oh, okay. Show the bug animation. Just trying to see what they're colliding with.
Where does it show this?
Not sure. Try.
Nope. What the? And then forget this because the run we don't have this set to. Set to 2, not 200. Keep it 200 because I want to make sure it's all.
I think there was some other guys that says the same thing. I got this image. I really don't understand. Oh, that doesn't look very good.
Maybe that's why. It might be the editor. Like maybe the project settings weren't being passed through.
Yeah.
I'll restart.
Okay.
Let me
Yeah,
save all.
yeah. Let's restart. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I'll save all. Control Shift S. And we'll restart the editor. I will be furious if that's why.
Yeah, I mean, another 10 minutes long. I
Just
mean, more.
stop and rerun.
Yeah, it's a terrible feeling when you have it correct, and then you try to fix it and you break it,
Yeah,
but it was correct in the first place.
literally, yeah. So in here, that's all done. We've got the IK trace. Huh. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Let me just make sure that. I'm not being silly. I have set this to the right things. Ignore. Yeah. That's really weird. I'll quickly rebuild. But that seems like a weird, very weird, like, thing to.
Yeah, because I don't think it's colliding with anything but
Yeah,
itself.
it's saying it's colliding. Um,
Well, what did the guy say in the reply to the message? to change the ground collision to the new collision. What?
Using visibility instead of IK trace fixed it for me.
Wow. Okay, but
What the? Wait, oh. What the?
wow. What does visibility? It even works
It
actually.
works, yeah. Let me
Um,
sort the camera out. 1 sec.
but what did the other guy say? Yeah, but visibility destroyed my what? See, I think we just need to copy those settings, right? From visibility, because I'm pretty sure it's not correct to.
So this works now.
Yeah, it works.
Good old IK. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, cool. Now let's see what the visibility settings are. Yeah.
In fact, there are so many, but
Where's visibility?
yeah, I think they are like presets, right? So how do we know how do we see the presets? And because I don't understand what visibility means in that
Yeah, I
context.
have
So.
no clue either. Um,
Because
maybe.
I'm pretty sure that is gonna bite us in the future because
Yeah, I
we
can't
don't have
not
control
honestly.
over that.
So here. Huh? So here, so invisibility. Okay, so let's go through each one. So for visibility, well, this is what we'll do. This is what we'll do instead of that, instead of this crap. Um, I don't know this was on before. Okay, yeah. What we'll do is instead, in the project settings, we'll go through each one and see what visibility is set. So for in no collision, ah, visibility is set to ignore. Local. Okay, so it seems here visibility is set to ignore as well.
Oh, should we put like physicators as
No,
ignore?
visibility is set to block.
But I'm pretty sure if we set physics actor as IK trace ignore,
Oh no,
yeah.
I did this before and it didn't work either.
Oh, on the physics actor.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
show you. Um, just test it again, but says IK trace. This is idle. Should yeah.
All right.
Yeah, here. I think it might be this. Wait, no collision.
What does it even mean?
I think here, if we do this, okay, so that's not the changing factor. One thing is that this is set to ignoring that, so we'll do ignore there.
Yeah, should we just keep going until we find
Yeah,
which one
just gotta
is.
go till find it. So I
Uh,
find the one.
should we do a binary search, right? We do 50% and 50%.
Split it in half.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh god, of course it's different every time.
I have a bad feeling that
It's
we're
none
not
of
gonna get it from here.
me either. I don't think we are either. Don't know why. It's not even that.
Right on.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it
What?
was gonna be that. I had a feeling that was gonna be the case. I just knew it. It's ragdoll. This simulates the skeletal mesh component, which is what we were colliding with.
Interesting.
But what? That seems like a weird thing. Could it be? Could it be? No.
Yeah, I mean our ragdoll is only activated
So
after
very
yeah.
often.
uh,
So it's
yeah.
ragdoll. Ragdoll's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, out of all of those, ragdoll would make the only
The
sense, right?
only sense, yeah, because that's the skeletal mesh component. That's what's.
Mm.
It's a simulation of that.
Oh well.
So that works. Let me make sure that is also set. So that's set to IK trace. This is set to the IK trace as well. Okay. Okay, so it works. So it was ragdoll. That was the difference. I mean, yeah, it works really well actually.
Yeah.
Compared to what we set up earlier, literally having one node.
Yeah. I think the other thing I don't understand why the feet is the other way around. Like, shouldn't he rotate the feet up and not down? Or should they rotate the feet at all? Maybe that is another setting that you
Yeah.
can apply. Yeah, you know, like when it goes down, the heel is
Up,
yeah,
yeah.
that
Do you know what
they
it's the
they should
bone?
do that.
It's the bone that we do IK on because the foot bone is at the back of the foot. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
because if
see,
you look,
those rotations are all wrong.
it's because if you look here, the foot bone is there. So it does it to this point here. However, this is just it basically gets this point and puts it. So that's why this is still facing up.
But it should rotate.
Like if we had
Should do
IK
we IK with the ball
ball,
then?
so if we had IK the ball,
Yeah.
now it's on the balls of the feet.
Yeah. Oh wow, that looked a bit weird, no?
Yeah, very. You. It might be worth. Yeah, because now it just moves the top one. Yeah, it doesn't look right.
Yeah, it's
It might be the kind of thing where either you set up multiple or we create a socket here. We create a socket for these two. Place it in the middle. So
mm, yeah, but no, but then because like all the animations are, I think like because our mocap data and everything uses
yeah,
that for. I think there are some settings that we can. I think the
yeah.
foot left and right
The
is the
pull
correct
weight,
one.
yeah. Maybe like that. I'll move this back to the foot.
Yeah,
For now at least, and we'll get finished off on the.
I think in the video it does a few more settings because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
still like got it wrong.
Oh yeah, we still got loads to do. Um, okay, I'm quickly gonna grab a drink. I'm gonna pause the recording here, and then we'll come back once I'll just be back for my drink real quick. So let me just